Joining us now, Denver Riggleman, Congressman, Republican, 5th District. That's the south side of Virginia. Congressman, great to have you. Happy Thanksgiving week.
Well, thank you, and good morning.
One of your staff members told me this is the first day you had off in about, 2 years.
It feels that way. Yes. There's always something, right? There's always something. Today, actually, we had 2 meetings scheduled today, which I thought were off, so really I'm not. So it is what it is, right? You work hard and just keep on going.
Well, you know what? Let me just ask you this. You said you were supposed to be off today, but here you are doing my radio show. What kind of a vacation is that?
Well, John, you asked, so, and, I'm pretty prepared for this. We've been doing this so much, John, from all the bills we've been doing all the way through impeachment and now through trying to get, the USMCA passed, but also we just put in a bill that was pretty huge, too, that we're working really hard. So a lot going on, so I can't stop yet, buddy. I can't stop yet.
Well, there's so much to get done, but you guys can't do anything because you're tied up with impeachment. The opportunity cost, I had Peter Navarro on my show the other day, White House trade advisor to the president, and we were live at the White House, Denver Riggleman, and he was outlining the opportunity cost of impeachment. And I mean, it's in the billions of dollars of the things that we're not doing that we could be doing, from USMCA, which is the easy one, to stopping surprise billing, which you're a co-sponsor of, surprise medical billing, to prescription drugs. I mean, to better healthcare plan, to infrastructure, to roads, to Amtrak. I mean, it goes on.
And on and on and on. And that queue is piling up. And what happens is that in January through March, as re-election season gets going, nobody's going to want to pass a bill. The Democrats aren't going to want to put anything forward. It looks like a win for any Republican. It's going to be interesting because the war is going to be getting anything to the floor that means something. That's going to be the next war that we fight.
Well, going into November, certainly. I want to get to impeachment, Denver Riggleman. So I had Vice President Pence on my show on Tuesday, 1 week ago from today. And he said that he was not convinced, it was not a foregone conclusion, that Pelosi had the votes to pass impeachment, and that was a week ago. And I kind of pushed back on that because the majority of GOP congressmen I've talked to have said, no, it's going to pass, they have the votes. But then Schiff on Sunday, Adam Schiff, your colleague there, the chairman of Intel, was kind of backpedaling around, and now we've got at least 2 U.S. senators that are likely to vote no, which is Simina in Arizona and Manchin, and now maybe Doug Jones, could be 3.
That's correct, Doug Jones. You're exactly right, John.
It could be 3 Democratic senators voting for non-conviction or voting for exoneration. What's going on?
So, and I promised I wouldn't release names, but I've had discussions with many, many people on the floor. And I think the issue that you have is those who are maybe newer or those who are in more swing districts are having considerable angst about what's happening right now. And I think part of it is if you go through the testimony and read the testimonies, I think, number one, it's public servants thinking that they control public policy somehow, which everybody knows that is not correct. You execute the policy of the State Department on what you're supposed to do, whether it's Pompeo or the president, and it comes from the president. The other thing was the amazing lack of concrete evidence for anything. And when you see that, and also the disrespect and condescension, when you have, I believe it was Holmes, I'm trying to remember, I read so many transcripts, when they're calling our ambassadors the 3 amigos, when they just, it almost seems like there's an entitlement culture out there where if they think it's wrong, it is, regardless of the evidence. And I think what you see is a backpedaling on such a fast level, because right now they might be losing votes for impeachment in the House. And I still think it's going to get through, but instead of a, instead of a 235 to 199 or 236 to 199 vote, because we have a couple people still not voting usually in there who haven't are not real active, like Tulsi Gabbard, who's never there. So what you're going to see, I think, is that you're going to probably see a 219, maybe a 217, something that's so close if the Democrats pull this off. And now that takes away the mandate and also just destroys their credibility. So that's why you see the backpedaling right now.
So how many, figure you got 435 members, a couple of them are not going to vote. That's 432. So they need, 217, 218. And if this thing passes with 220 votes, and of course no Republicans and like 15 Democrats defect, I mean, what message does that send?
Right now, I think it's 10 to 12 Democrats defecting. That's my guess.
Yes.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. So, and now when you look at that vote, people start to say, whoa. So we talking to 221 to 210, 211. What are we talking about on votes? And I think they're starting to see that. Plus, they're doing a lot of polling. Democrats do everything by polling. They don't do by what's right or wrong, right? So they're doing a lot of polling in the swing districts right now, and those swing districts are not looking good. We know that for a fact. And I think what they're saying is, okay, maybe we overstepped here. Maybe we should stop the second round of impeachments before we start a third one, because who knows? The third round of impeachment might be that, I don't know. Who knows what the third impeachment charge is going to be, because this is number 2 after Mueller. So who knows? Again, they're going to back off from quid pro quo. I think they're even going to back off from bribery. I still think you're going to see some bizarre obstruction impeachment charge maybe. We don't know exactly what it's going to be. So, again, I think people need to look at the charge and look at how many Democrats flip and to see if they even bring that vote before Christmas, because right now the rumor is the week before Christmas, right before we go into Christmas recess. And
they're saying that they're going to release the report to Jerry Nadler's Judiciary Committee before Thanksgiving. And then what happens then, Denver Riggleman? We're with Republican Congressman Virginia, 5th District, Denver Riggleman. Denver, what happens then? Schiff releases the report to Chairman Nadler. Then what happens? Walk us through exactly what happens.
Sure. So once Nadler gets that report, the reason that they're backpedaling is because exactly what you just mentioned was shifting to the judiciary, because now they get firmly in the grasp of Doug Collins from Georgia. So Nadler and them are pretty afraid of Doug Collins. He has an incredible staff, so they start calling their own witnesses in their own investigation. So, and they have to do this in an expedited manner based on them wanting to try before Christmas. Their fear is that, honestly, their fear of witnesses getting cross-examined by Doug Collins and his team. Mm-hmm. The Republican legal team is absolutely brutal, efficient, and just completely full of integrity. And that's the issue that they have. Doug Collins is an amazing individual, an accomplished human being, and incredibly intelligent. And if Doug Collins, the ranking member for the Republicans, is going against Jerry Nadler, people know how that's going to fare. So as they go through their own investigative process, there's just incredible amount of fear that Jerry Nadler is in over his head, and that Doug Collins is going to be really effective in these proceedings. Right, that's the fear from the Democrats.
So let me get this straight. The last fiasco that Nadler had is when he brought Corey Lewandowski in for questioning. My good friend Corey, everybody knows that, so that's my disclaimer. And Corey basically bench pressed him. It was such a disaster for Nadler. Then Speaker Pelosi basically said, okay, Jerry Nadler, you're no longer my starting linebacker. I'm going to go at Adam Schiff. We're going to try this in your committee. That hasn't turned out well either. Now they're going back to Nadler, and now even worse, Nadler has to go up against Georgia's Doug Collins, which is a very sharp legal mind, and he's got a great team around him. That's the problem.
Yes, he does. Yes, and he. So I've been able to give inputs to the judiciary. You know that I was a CEO of my own DoD company, but I was also acted as the special security officer at one time, the facility special security officer. I also built my own SCIF. I start laughing when people think they know SCIF rules. People from the outside, whether it's on social media, they have no idea what they're talking about. They're actually ignorant. So of anything that happens in the secure area. So I've been submitting research and security issues to the Judiciary Committee and to others based on my background in intelligence. So they should be afraid, John. They should be very afraid, because when you ask direct questions that take fact-based answers, they're having a very difficult time answering those. And I have direct questions that take fact-based answers. It takes about 20 years to know the answers to these if you want to know how the intelligence community works. So they better have their, their I's dotted and their T's crossed before they walk into there with Doug Collins.
So when they send these to Nadler, then Nadler, will he have a second round of public hearings where they bring witnesses in and Collins can call witnesses in? Is it going to be a second play?
Remember, the
a
majority,
second act?
The majority, yeah, there might be a second act, but the majority can control the witnesses and the number of minority witnesses, as you know. So that's going to be interesting. I think their fear really, it could be a second act. They might have some other witnesses. They might be going into other areas which I might be helping with, by the way, John. Mm-hmm. So there might be other areas that they're going into, but I think these questions are going to be a little bit more specifically focused on the law and things like 18 U.S.C. Section 798, which is disclosure of classified information to unauthorized persons. So there's going to be a lot of interesting questions, I think, asked, and we're going to find out why the primary individuals did not think this reached the threshold, and they had to give it to whistleblowers. And that's the question that, smart people scratch their heads. So the people who originally passed this information, maybe outside of channels, mm-hmm. why didn't they think it reached the threshold? And that's going to be tough questions for the Democratic witnesses.
So you guys are going to go, basically, if it gets to, if Nadler has hearings, it sounds like what you're saying is Republicans, where in the Schiff hearings they play defense, they're going to go on offense.
Yeah, it'll be more on offense. I mean, with Nadler, it's not going to be as hard to go on offense. I think it's going to be effective. So I'm looking forward to what Doug does and what the team does.
Now, can Nadler can he just take the report he gets from Schiff and just draw up the articles of impeachment and pass it out of committee without any hearings?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Is that a likely scenario, Denver? Riggleman,
I don't know if it's likely, but I think it's something they can surely do. But if they think that Nadler's not up to the task, it's funny you say that. I don't know if you're sitting in some of the meetings, but Nadler can do what he wants, and he honestly could just draw up the articles of impeachment and pass it out of committee if he wants to.
Yeah, I think that's a more likely scenario. I don't think they're going to go through another round of these hearings because they backfired on them, and Nadler's not as good as Schiff. And like you say, you've got Doug Collins there. So my take, in just talking to enough people in D.C., I'm in Richmond now, is that Nadler's just going to take the report, go to a staff, draw up one or two little tight, package it, get it. Now, he's got the votes to get it out of the Judiciary Committee, and then it goes to the well, right, the floor.
Yep, goes to the well.
And then you guys will debate it.
Yes, we will debate it on the floor.
And then
again, you got Doug Collins. If it comes out of Judiciary, again, their issue, they have Doug Collins and to worry about. I mean, and not just Doug, but the entire Judiciary. And you're talking about some of my freshman members on the Judiciary that are absolutely brutal, right, mm-hmm. and smart. I mean, guess who's on there? Ben Klein from Virginia, mm-hmm. right? Guy Reschenthaler from Pennsylvania, Kelly Armstrong from North Dakota. I mean, these people don't mess around. Mm-hmm. They're attorneys. They're tired of it, and I just really am looking forward to seeing what's happening there, and being part of it is something it's historic. But the more we do this, you talked about opportunity costs, the more we lose in real legislation. So
Denver, even if Adam Schiff if Jerry Nadler tries to just get out of committee without having any more hearings, calling any more witnesses, when he has the committee vote in the Judiciary Committee, they have to have a debate there, right? They just can't have a straight vote.
Yes, you do.
Right?
That's right.
And
that's where everybody gets their 5 minutes.
That's where Collins and his team comes in.
Yeah. Yes. Everybody has their 5 minutes. Again, no matter what they do, they're not going to stop the Judiciary Committee on the Republican side from presenting what they think they need to present in the time allotted.
Right. And that'll get covered. And now you're saying that there's, without names, there's 10, maybe 12, maybe 15 of these 31 freshman Democrats that are going to vote, potentially vote. Now you've got one in New Jersey, South Jersey. I always forget his name. He's already voted no. You've also got the 36-year, I think, veteran in rural Minnesota,
so you got
Colin
Peterson. And Van Drew.
Yep.
So you got Peterson and Van Drew, right? They are not going to do it. But now, when you look at what's happening with Manchin and some of the senators, right, and Doug Jones, obviously, when you're looking at that, you have Democrats in these districts that might be, 7 or 8 points pro-Trump, right, mm-hmm. that are going to vote for impeachment. You're going to have a tough time. And I think we even see that in Virginia with the swing districts here. It's just going to be a tough time for them because if this doesn't get out of the House, which I still think it will, barely, but I think it will. But if this doesn't get out of the House, Katie bar the door.
Oh, they're done.
And they're done. They're done. So they're just done. And so we'll see what happens with them. But I think that's why you saw back to Schiff, right, where they started. I think that's why you see his comments over the weekend. A little bit of
backtracking.
trepidation.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure, because, I mean, it's not going their way. And you look at Virginia, your two colleagues here, your two freshman colleagues, Elaine Luria already baked the cake. She said 2 weeks ago, I've seen enough. I've seen all the evidence I need. I'm voting for impeachment. So she jumped the gun. A good candidate there beats her. I've been saying that for months. Spanberger, penned that op-ed for the hearings, but I don't think on the record she's committed one way or the other, has she?
She has not.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her commit on the record.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, and you're right. The cake was baked. So
With Luria.
Absolutely. And listen, the Virginia delegation still meets together once a month. We're the last really state to do it in a bipartisan fashion. These are good people. The issue that you have is that this is a battlefield of ideas, but it's also about a far left contingent in the party starting to take over. And sometimes I'm surprised that there isn't a little bit more pushback when you know that, you saw AOC's tweet, you see Al Green, all of them are like, hey, impeachment's the only way we can beat the president. They're saying this publicly. And that should call into question any of their motives when they're only using impeachment as a political tool, which if you read Federalist 65, that's something that scared the founders. So Anyway, that's where we're at.
I mean, you're right. When you got AOC tweeting out and Congressman Green saying that this really is the hammer we need, this is the only option we got to beat the president for re-election. I mean, you got to scratch your head and say, why, just go beat him. I mean, why are we doing this and tying the country up in nuts? I said at the beginning, this is a head scratcher. Running into a second impeachment inquiry after the disaster of the Mueller report, doing it on a level that was hearsay, which you can't get a speeding ticket conviction on hearsay, John. Right.
I mean, so I just find it, again, I said it was a head scratcher at the beginning. It's usually when you look at my field, you always wait till all the evidence is presented, and you always try to look at things in a way that's constitutional. And as soon as they come out with, I was not there, or I heard it from a friend, you start, and especially in an intelligence field, I got to tell you, every single ping meter goes off in anybody who's done this for real, and I have. And that's the issue you have, is people who've done it for real, who haven't been in politics, who've seen the other side of this when it comes to data and sources and making good decisions. This is very concerning to people who've lived in the real world, and I'm one of those guys.
Denver Riggleman, great insight today. Thank you. Sounds like you're thinking it's still going to pass, but by a very small margin.
Yes, that. Now, Doug Collins hasn't gotten a hold of it yet, right?
Right.
So let's see what happens. The Intel Committee hearings were the paparazzi hearings, right?
Right.
When you first got introduced to this whole group. Now you're going into the meat grinder. Mm-hmm. And now when you have the Judiciary Committee, and it's just not Doug Collins and our members, his staff is remarkable. I'm telling you, John, they're remarkable. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to specific law and analytics, it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats in this next round with the judiciary, unless they just package it and leave it. Right, that's what's going on there.
That's what I'm predicting they do. They package it, leave it, get it out of committee. I got to take off now. Denver, to your family, your lovely wife, happy Thanksgiving, and please take a day off one of these days.
And happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, John. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, John Fredericks Radio Network.